everyone. Welcome to the Raw and Wild Hearts podcast. I'm your host and guide, Lori Rising, star channeler, sacred guide, and high octave mentor. Welcome to season 5. Wow. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I have a lot of emotion coming up in different ways because I did not know if the podcast was going to come back. And I allowed the space for not knowing if the podcast was going to come back. And I allowed the time for not knowing if the podcast was going to come back. The last episode of season 4 aired 3 months ago. It's the biggest break I've ever had in all of my seasons of the podcast since I dropped it in November of 2019. And it was necessary in so many ways. So today's episode is called A New Wheel Begins because this is me choosing this podcast, choosing this transmission, and finding my deep love for it. That's the motivator, that's the momentum, and that's the energy of where I'm going this season. Full disclosure, I had intended to start season 5 when the new Wheel of the Year did begin on Samhain, which is the fixed date of October 31st or the astrological date of November 7th. And it just wasn't in alignment, wasn't coming together. It felt like I was forcing it. And so I really found the strength within myself to just sit with that and let it be revealed where it wanted to go. So I let myself be guided by what was becoming alive for me, which ultimately ended up with my biggest, most exciting masterclass to date, which was called the Path Masterclass. I just held it a couple weeks ago. And I really gave myself the space for that because that download had really started dropping in the beginning of the summer. And now here we are in mid-November when I brought it together, when I got the full yes energy on it. And I feel it. I feel what happens when we let ourselves receive, we let ourselves create in the energy, we let it come together. And then the physical manifestation or reality is so much more easeful. It's so much bigger than had we been forcing and grinding and doing it just because it was supposed to happen or because of the outcome we think it's going to bring. So I had a blast with all of you that showed up, whether you came live or in the replay. And I'm still sitting with the unbelievable vibration that was created and rippled out from there. And I'm still hearing from some of you with the epiphanies and the transformation that's happening in your life. And for some of you, we are going on. So the thing that I was really launching through that masterclass was the transmission of the masterclass. Like, I came to get results with you, which is why I showed up for 4 days and I gave it my all. It was holistic. It was integrative. It was body, mind, soul, and energy. And for those of you that felt the yes and you were ready to find your edge from what was revealed during our time together, you've jumped in to the Mastermind or mentorship journeys that I'm offering this fall into the winter. So I would just like to share here that on Tuesday, December 5th, we're beginning the next Octave Mastermind, which is a 4-month journey of liberation. This is how we move into spaces of deep trust in ourselves, in each other, and in life. Like, how does that energy feel? Don't you just want to jump in, dive in, and swim in that every single day for the rest of this experience? Yeah. And that's the big reason why I am putting it together, because I watch you, I listen to you, and I feel your energy. And this is not just in the last year or 2 years or 3 years. This is since I really began my therapeutic practice, but honestly, I've been a healer of lifetimes. So it's just, this is how I do. So when I was doing body work and energy work, and you were coming to me to have something fixed, I knew that there was such deep blocks at that time that we weren't ready as a collective to move into the subconscious recoding of our cells and DNA yet. We are now. Yeah, that's how big it is. We are in a major space of human evolution right now. And for those of you that do continue to show up, to do the work, to feel more than you ever have before, to flow, to receive, to honor the dance of duality in humanity, to really face and hold the stories, the imprints, the internal struggle, the loop that's kept coming back time and again in your life for root transformation, you know that something has shifted. You know you're ready to invest in a way that you never have before. And when I say invest, I mean body, mind, soul, spirit, energy, attention, all of it. With every big retrograde period that we go through, there's a next level that arrives afterwards. And it might not arrive immediately. So we don't usually put that together, but it's arriving now. We are free of personal retrogrades at the moment of this recording, but we are in the pre-shadow of the Mercury retrograde that begins on December 13th. So we've had a lot of forward momentum. We've had a lot of energy open up, and it's not a huge period, but how we ride this wave in our availability for it is where we will land in the ascension phase or process. And honestly, what I'm seeing is the more we release the grip and we come into the new earth soul flow, the faster it's going for all of us. And so I want to be somebody who offers you an opportunity for the deep dive. Now, you know if you're ready. It can show up as nerves and excitement or even fear of the unknown or resistance, especially even in the form of a trigger when you're sitting with me in the master class with what I'm sharing with you that is designed to get to the root, to really open something up that begins to move you beyond your edge of what's comfortable or what you've known into the possibilities of what you've never experienced before or what your lineage has never experienced before. And then the declaration of it because you're being held in a new belief system. That's where mentorship comes in. It's the environment you provide for yourselves to make the evolution while you might wobble or while you might backtrack or look for what we perceive as safety, but actually has been very skewed by the normalization of stress in this culture. So I just took you on that journey to say the new wheel begins. What's your new wheel? Now, it's not like wheels stop and start, but we go through each cycle or season of the wheel and we come to a completion of what no longer serves us or what's ready to be revealed, healed, and released so the new can come in. This is why I want to talk about the importance of the timing of the new wheel of the year, because it has everything to do with our cycles and seasons and our natural rhythm. So it begins at the end of harvest as we move into winter, which is the death. And the death is where everything actually begins. That's where the seeds of life get planted as we allow what's no longer working for our intentional growth of this human journey. It's the ultimate space of receiving of our divine feminine energy, of the trust that we will move and grow and expand when we move through an empowered death or a good death. So yes, I am bringing in the last episode of season 4. And if you haven't listened to it, I highly recommend it. It's called A Good Death. And I feel in the collective, many of you have let go of a deep place of resistance that has been living in your DNA through lifetimes for the possibilities and potentials of your wildest dreams, of your best, most alive experience that comes with us in our truest, fullest nature. I feel a very distinct shift in the belief around what happens when we access our full holistic experience, when we really engage in the practices of the body, of the energy, and of our soul's blueprint for the shift in the mind. So I talk about this often, especially when I'm offering manifestation downloads and masterclasses. And the thing is, we have been trained in Band-Aid and surface culture. It keeps us focused and looking for an outcome because when we get the thing, it's just going to relieve the pressure living in our past fears or future worries. And that negates all of the cycles that are happening right now, right here for us. They're there for co-creation. They're there for the unfolding of this journey and experience. And that's when we drop into this beautiful space where the energy of anything is the foundation of what we're creating. The physicality is and should be the very last thing to come, and it comes in ease. So when you're doing the energetic work, when you are doing the transformative work, when you're letting yourself ebb and flow with the cosmic tides and weather and the planets and nature and the seasons that you're in, you're actually so much easier coming to the thing that wants to be born and become reality in this experience. And that's never going to be the last thing. And it's never going to be the thing that gives you what you were sold is going to change the intensity. The intensity comes from the resistance that we're living in, and the resistance comes from our need to control. So what I really want to share here is how exciting it is that I'm feeling so many of you come into more buoyancy in this space. You're really beginning to live from your innate nature. We're still moving through some pretty deep scarcity imprints while we're still fielding a lot of scarcity in what's being shared in the world and what's being revealed in the world. So that's why we do have to be so diligent and so intentional about our stream of consciousness. And when you can have that awareness on how to flow with what's really happening around you, it's liberating. It's so incredible to have that level of trust that has been convinced out of us. So this new Wheel of the Year is really special in so many ways. And I'd love to hear from many of you. How are you feeling the depth of the transformation that you're going through right now? Because I know it is starting to get lighter, even if you're still feeling the intensity of what really has presented in your life over and over, and it could be presenting in a really loud way. And that's the message that it's time to do it different, even if you're still resisting making that change. If you're still holding on to some things in the past or some worries from the past or some patterns that you've been living in, and you're holding them higher than what's on the other side of this unknown, on this invitation to doing something big and bold and different in your life, then it's going to get really, really uncomfortable. That's the thing, is that when we really do surrender to the flow, to the feeling, to the emotion, and let ourselves move through it, there's always going to be a realization or an epiphany or an enlightenment on the other side. But when we stay in that space of half in, half out, we stay in that holding the brakes down just enough because of all the stories that we've accumulated and the evidence that we've gathered for why we can't make the move or can't do it different. Like I think I said before, we're just going to continue to attract more of those scenarios or those opportunities to practice receiving the message, getting quiet, finding a softness and a stillness in the nervous system, honoring the reflective wisdom that's available, and taking the new aligned action, aka the jump, the leap, the unknown path beyond the edge that you may have normalized so deeply in your experience. So this, my friends, is the power of mentorship. It's the power of masterminds. And I am a full yes on both. Since March of 2023, I have gone through the death of certain parts of my business and the death of certain ways that I have shown up in my business and the death of who I even thought I was for my business. And y'all, it has been guttural. It has been so big and so intense at times. I thought for sure I was going to quit. There were so many layers to it. And the thing that I want to share with you, which is my own foray into mentorship and hiring a high-level spiritual business coach, was I knew the impact. I knew my mission. I know my soul's blueprint. I know why I'm in business. I've gotten so many testimonials and results. Like, I've gotten to experience these beautiful shifts in so many of your lives. I've sat with you with tears of joy, tears of liberation, tears of pain and sorrow. I've done this in so many different ways in my business. You know, I offer it on a multitude of levels. It's because I'm multidimensional, and also I'm a manifesting generator, which I'm learning more about human design now. And I'm super excited to bring that here into the podcast and more into my containers that I share and offer in. And the thing is, I knew I could hold on to my dream, and I could hold on to where I know I'm going in business. Yet I hit this rut and I was completely burnt out. I had totally overwhelmed myself by taking on every single task in my business, everything. And as a manifesting generator, we have a lot of ideas. And I have a lot of Aries in my chart as well. And Aries has a lot of ideas with a lot of passion behind them. And so I've created a lot of paths in my business and offers in my business, and I just couldn't keep up with everything. I got to the point of what felt like no return. And I really started to take on this imbalanced masculine energy, this hustle and grind. It just wasn't working because that's not my way of life. Like, I walk my talk, and it felt so hard, so challenging, and actually so bleak because I am the sole provider for myself. I was going to say for my family, it's my family of animals, but that's the thing. I didn't have a backup, and I needed to provide for myself. And the underlying magic was really slipping away. So I had to really step back and take a good, hard, and soft look into my business and feel into my business, which is what I've been doing over this whole summer. And it's why I hired a high-level mentor. I invested a lot, and that actually created a space for me to move the needle on my own money mindset blocks. And I knew that's what I was doing. I go all in with all of my Aries energy. So if I know there's something that is ready, there's an edge that I'm on, I'm going to do the thing to move through it to find the paths that are really showing up in my best and highest good. And that really became my summer, was getting so deeply back into the death and rebirth, the trust, the ebb and the flow, and letting myself feel into what's most alive for me in my innate medicine, in my soul's medicine that I'm here to share in this world. So my mentor became my belief system when I was wobbly, when I was going through the depths of the fear and the resistance. Like, I was ready to burn it all down. I couldn't see beyond it for a while. And she sat with me heart to heart and held the power of who I am and what I came here to do. And she held that for me while I went through the unfolding, the unraveling, the deep dive to the root of what was really coming up here. And how could I let myself fall to feel it all so that I transformed it in a way that I've ascended beyond that internal struggle or that imprint that was coming up so deeply for me. So this is the power of mentorship. This is why I have transformed my business from digital courses for the time being into masterclasses, longer, high touch, high octave mentorships and masterminds, because I want to be there with you, heart to heart, side by side, and become your belief system so that you can go to the deepest parts where those stories and struggles have really taken root, so that we can clear them once and for all, so that you can move to your next octave and be the person that holds that power. So yeah, I sat with my one-on-one, one-off astrology and Akashic Records readings, and I think they really have their place, which is why I didn't remove them completely. But I was always left wanting. I was always left wondering. And they would produce such a huge momentum shift in people's lives. But then y'all were left to go back to the streams of consciousness, to the environments, and to the communities that are actually holding you in the previous version of who you are. Or I should say, we're holding ourselves in the story of how they see us in the previous version of who we are. So it becomes really easy to get sucked right back in and then get discouraged, because in the reading, you feel the possibilities, you feel the connection to source, to spirit, to God, and you know that you can get there. And then you come back and get hit with this density that hasn't changed. So I want to be the one that sits with you while you integrate, you alchemize, and you apply. You apply it to your life so that it becomes who you are. And you normalize it as your lifestyle because you've created such deep value in the new results while you've been being held, supported in unconditioned and in full witness through the evolution. And wow, I was reflecting, Inara and I, my own mentor, we had our last session just this week, and to look and feel the unbelievable transformation in where I had landed at that moment in my business and my soul's medicine to where I am now. It feels amazing. It feels incredible. It feels so deeply liberating and validating, because I showed up in so many tears, on my knees often, just in the depths of what needed to move through me to break the cycle that was getting its hooks in me. And I'll tell you right now that my second podcast of the season coming up is called Break the Cycle. And it's a pretty big download that's been coming through for a while. So I do hope that you come back. Please subscribe. Let me know how this lands for you and what you're feeling into your new wheel or the new iteration of you that's showing up, and where are you at in the declaration of it. Take a screenshot of this episode, tag me on IG. I'm at the Raw and Wild Hearts. And if you have received some support, some inspiration in this episode, please share it with someone that you love. Share it with one friend. Share it with your community. Let's keep this ripple going. Let's keep allowing ourselves to be the new iterations of ourselves over and over as we embrace death for the rebirth, as we allow ourselves to get still, get quiet, and receive, find trust, and take the aligned action. As we really do excavate these stories that have had a hold on us for entirely too long. Y'all, I've been sitting with this deeply because of the Path Masterclass and everything that we really opened in that space. And the only thing that holds us back, that keeps us dimmed, is the story that we've created around something. And that story can live on what seems like a never-ending hamster wheel because the imprint is still in our body. Our subconscious still believes that we're in that experience. And that's why in any practice that we do in this life, the real true magic happens at the root. And y'all, I will tell you that in the Path Masterclass, I brought it home in day one, especially as the plant that we are, every part of us, and how when we nourish and nurture the body, the mind, the soul, and the energy, we are unstoppable. So as a gift to you here and now, I have continued to leave day one of the Path Masterclass up as a free replay. Now, we went through a 4-day journey together, and you can purchase the entire masterclass, the 4 days, and have it forever. These are practices that you can come back to time and time again, and I promise you that when you do, you will shift. Things will change. You have to find the value in it to create the belief in your time and your energy and your investment. And that's where things really start to move. And quantum leaps can happen because we're being so fully supported cosmically right now. I mean, it can be overwhelming because as we create more space in ourselves, we feel the incoming light, knowledge, and energies so deeply, but we have to move through integration. So the more that we can really hold that space of rest in the unknown, right? So often we've been living our lives by planning them out, and it doesn't at all allow for the reality of this system, this being, this vessel that's a living, breathing energy and mechanism to lead us in the present moment and in the flow. This is deeply changing. And so if you get lit up, if you get fired up inside from the first day of the Path Masterclass, know that that's available. You can have the whole masterclass for forever, or you can say yes. You can take the leap with me, and we can walk heart to heart, side by side, in full unconditioned and witness through the transformation beyond the edge that you know you're at for the liberation of a life lived in trust, lived in power. In the next Octave Mastermind that begins on December 5th, we already have a beautiful little circle of souls that's starting with us. And I'll tell you right now, this is different than any mastermind you've ever heard of or maybe even participated in, because we're starting with a very nutritional cleanse. It matters. Our holistic clarity and connection matters. So hit me up, send me a message if you have questions. I would love to chat with you. We can jump on a free discovery call. You can always reach me at Lori@therawandwildhearts.com. And if you are feeling drawn to a private mentorship, which is one-on-one with me for 3 months, then I have one available for this season. And I can share with you the unbelievable shifts that people have already experienced in these containers with me. And hey, if it's not me, let it be someone else. Let yourself listen through the messages that come in when you hear or feel the energy of a mentor, of a coach. And if you can find your way into the softness or the belief that you will be different, your energy will be higher, your magnetism will be greater, and you will be in a space of liberation and freedom within your life on the other side of an investment with them, that, my friends, is the best currency that we could ever have in this experience. Because from there, you show up, you shine your light, you take the chances, you move into aligned risks, and you have staying power in the dream or desire that you know you came here to live out and be. So thank you for going on this journey with me in the first episode of the rebirth of this podcast. I should say the reclamation of this podcast. I'm really excited to be back, and I can't wait to hear your excitement as well. I will include the link for that free replay of day 1 of the Path Masterclass below, and just let yourself notice any stories that might come up if you are ignoring the call to dive in and receive the big transmission that came through for that. And finally, if you did enjoy this episode, or if you have enjoyed the previous 4 seasons of the podcast and you're excited for us to be back, to come back for the 5th season in a whole new energy, please give me a star rating and review. It only takes a few minutes, and you just scroll down on Apple Podcasts to find it and click on write a review. It means so much more than you can ever imagine, because this really does help continue the momentum and fuel the energy of this business so that I can be sustained and keep showing up in these free offerings as well. Okay, beautiful souls. I am so excited to come back with episode 2 called Break the Cycle. And until next time, don't forget to keep looking up.